Hi, and welcome back to the BA Project, where we talk about the good, the bad, and this week, the intangible things that you should be on the lookout for when searching for that new role, whether that's in business analysis or something else. My name is Drew, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Catherine and Christina. Say hi, Catherine.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Christina.
Hi.
So this week, we're going to have a little chat about those things that might spark either a little flame of excitement or a feeling of dread when you're in the process of looking for a move to a new role or to a new company. Call them flags, signs, indicators, whatever. The three of us are going to dig into a few of those so you don't have to. So I thought maybe this week we could start off by talking about the red flags. So when we're looking for that new role or switch to a new company, those things that might give you that feeling that maybe it's not the best decision. I'm sure you guys have felt it before. Hopefully it's not when you came to work and where we currently work. But yeah, those kind of intangible feelings that you can't put your finger on maybe. And the first one that I wanted to bring to you guys was a vague job spec. You've seen that before where you are looking for a new role and they post something and there's really broad responsibilities, or there's a real broad description of the role and they can't really pinpoint what you'll actually be doing. And there's a lot of ad hoc tasks, or there's an enhanced criteria around flexibility and needing to be able to adapt. I think for me, things like that means you're going to be doing absolutely everything, or it means the job spec means absolutely nothing. What's your experience with job specs like that? Would you stay completely away, or would you be intrigued if you like the job enough?
Oh, controversial. I would definitely be wary, yeah, because I think something like that, when it's so broad, kind of, I don't know, there's a bit of a smell of, maybe the manager or whoever's hiring for us is offloading part of their job, not hiring for maybe another role that they know they need. So they're merging a lot of things into one and hoping that they get away with it, maybe.
All at the wall and see what clicks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I definitely think I'd be a little bit nervous of it, but I definitely think that in some ways, so certain things like that, if it's a new role, can give you a little bit of an opportunity to put your own stamp on things. So I don't think it's definitely a one and done.
Removed your That's so much better, actually.
This is I love this. Oh,
you're back in the room.
So yeah, I don't think it's a one and done. I think sense check is, but I would definitely be wary.
Yeah,
I think coming from being more experienced in it and being involved in the hiring process now, a lot of it can come down to the fact that maybe the hiring manager hasn't had their hands on the job spec, and it's somebody in like a talent team or like a HR team or something trying to write a job spec, and they're not entirely sure what things should go in there, so they keep it so broad brush. So like I would be inclined to do my research on the company, and if it's a company, I think it's like in IT, and especially like me in Northern Ireland's such a small place that all of the sort of IT companies that I might be applying for, you'll have heard of them, or somebody will have heard of them. So you can get an idea of who the company is. And I suppose with a BA role, a BA, I suppose it can be jack of all, but in broad terms, we know what a BA is. We know what's expected of a BA. So I think younger me, it would have put me off to have a really vague job description. And it would be more so I was thinking, God, I can't do half of that stuff, so I'm not going to apply. The typical I'm a woman thing, and don't apply for a job if I'm only a little bit qualified, or sorry, if I'm a good bit qualified, and then there's the whole other side of that coin, which we'll not go into. But now it wouldn't scare me. I would still pursue it and do my research, I'd say.
Okay. And with job specs, I think sometimes I get well, it's been a while since I started job spec out. Excuse me, but I remember before being frustrated maybe and not knowing enough. You were talking there about not putting yourself forward. There's been times in the past where I'd love to put myself forward, but been maybe on the fence as to whether it was something I wanted. I knew I want the company, but not the role. Have you ever been in a position before where you've loved the company so much, or maybe it's an industry that you wanted to get into, that you're happy to take that role to crack the door open for that company or for that industry? Is that just too big a leap?
I can definitely see the attraction to doing that, but no, I've never done it. And I think it's always a difficult one. I think if you're doing that just to get into a company, you have to be really careful, because everything's not cracked up to what it usually is on LinkedIn or what you've heard through the grapevine. So I think you just have to be really, really careful. I wouldn't be disregarding everything that is required for your own fulfillment just because you get to work in X company.
Did I ever say at the time that I applied to join the Guards?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, that's a red flag.
Yeah, I'm sure I was a giant red flag for them. No, went through like the process, got through the first stage, did my exam, got through to the second stage, went on the RIP in Barcelona, and slept through my online exam. And waited.
Actually, you should have gotten in if that was the case.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. And I was away with a guard as well, hilariously. Missed my boat to join the Guards. Anyway, off topic.
Here you are.
Yeah.
Here I am.
We wouldn't have it any other way.
Lucky escape for both parties, I think.
The thing, I do think there are other factors. Again, I think it depends on where you are in your career as well. So if location was something that's important for you and there was a job available that wasn't 100% aligned to what you expected to do, but if it gave you an opportunity for like a circumstantial move that you needed to make in your life, but then there's the flip side of the coin in that you don't want to just be jumping job to job, and there's a level, I think there's a little bit of a level of dishonesty between you and the company if you are going for a role that you don't necessarily align to or want to stay there for a duration of time. I don't think that's a very good reason to be joining a company, because like the onboarding process takes time, the recruitment process takes time, that all takes time and money from an employer. For you to know that you're just going there because it suits your personal circumstance, I don't think it's very honest, but I think sometimes it's needs must too.
Yeah.
You just mentioned. Sorry, Catherine. I thought Christina mentioned.
Sorry.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Well, that'll be the card coming out.
Don't make me lose your head again.
I think this is perfect. Witness protection.
Yeah.
Sorry, what I was going to say about like job specs maybe putting you off because it's too broad. I think if you see it being a merge of multiple different roles, yeah, definitely a bit of a red flag. But if it's broader because, and maybe legitimately so, or maybe because other areas might be challenging and it might be something that you can dip your toes into, I think that's sometimes a good thing as well, because it can be opportunity to challenge yourself and get out of your own little remit. So I think that's sometimes nice, and what you want from a company is that they actually don't pigeonhole you into your day-to-day job, but actually think of you as more than. So yeah, I definitely think of it as a red flag if it's merging roles, but don't be entirely put off.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of flexibility in or should be in every role, but it's I suppose being able to manage the risk of that elasticity and how flexible.
Great word.
Yeah, great word. Am I okay to talk about my point now? We're good?
No.
So, excuse me. Christina mentioned actually one of the items I wanted to talk about, which was the onboarding process in relation to searching for a new company. I think for me, and over the last few years, especially as the three of us who work together have worked on an onboarding process to get it to a point where it works and it's been proven to work and it's been successful. I think if you're searching for an organization and you're talking with a company and you're in that feeling it out phase, trying to figure out if you're a fit for each other, maybe you're at an interview, and if you're at a point where you're talking about onboarding and you directly ask the question, tell me what my onboarding looks like, if they can't be specific with you, for me, it's a major red flag. If they can't tell you what is exactly going to happen and what week 1, 2, and 3 and beyond look like with regards to onboarding, then I think you need to ask serious questions if that's the place for you. And that's been my experience at other organizations, and as our team has grown, being able to put those specificities in place. I think that's a big red flag.
And we were actually talking about that at lunchtime today, that one of my friend's partners, he's joined one of the big 4 recently, and he has a structured 6-week onboarding plan. They did a mass induction where there's like 20, 30 of them start. So he had to delay a start date by 6 weeks or whatever, but it meant that all of them are going at it together, and they have external training bodies that come in and do an extensive onboarding, structured onboarding plan, so they know what they're doing every minute of every day for 6 weeks.
Oh,
so that's like one end of the spectrum. Then like I've definitely had, before I am where I am now, I've had a really super loosey-goosey onboarding where you turn up on your first day and they don't even have any hardware for you. So it's like the two opposite ends of the spectrum. Whereas like I agree with what you're saying, that we now, like I'm very confident and comfortable with our onboarding process. And I love the fact that if we're asked that in an interview, we have an answer straight away. Whereas like I think a lot of hiring managers would be a little bit fluffier, but because we've put that structure in place, it makes me more confident in an interview if I am asked that question, which is a nice feeling.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to give people that comfort, I think, because it's important, because your onboarding process sets the tone. It's somebody's first impression, and it's when you're at your most vulnerable in an organization, I think, when you're so unsure if you're working with new projects, new products, new people, and with business analysis and business analysts specifically, the imposter syndrome is just through the roof. So when you're moving to an organization, if you're learning new industries or new domain, the last thing you need is that uncertainty about how to do the job in the first couple of weeks.
But again, like I think if you're like, especially if you're going in at a senior role, maybe, or if it's a startup type company, you're going to have to allow for, you're going to have to probably be a little bit more patient, because probably so like, wow, it's a long day, but most likely you're being hired because there's maybe a level of chaos that you need to bring order to. So
plus at that level, there's less, you're less likely to have somebody from the C-suite or your senior leadership team sit with you and onboard you and be able to afford you their time, which is precious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Christina, you mentioned there that example of that mass recruitment or that group process of bringing people through the onboarding. I think another red flag for me would be where there's an organization who's got aggressive expansion and there's a process to bring a number of people through quite quickly. I'd be asking questions as to how sustainable that is. If I'm looking at the organization and me knowing what I know now and the position that I'm in and the position you guys are in, we all know to ask what's underlying. Is there a pipeline to be able to sustain that growth? So what does the business look like commercially? It's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months to be able to make sure that those people have work. And I think in the past, like me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have asked that question. I wouldn't have thought to ask that question. But I think it's an important one. If you're bringing 5, 10, 50 people in, what does the business look like? How does the model change to support that? And where's that coming from? So that would be a flag. Hopefully your friend has asked that question.
But I think until when I was client side for all those years, that would just never have been a thought in my mind. Consultancy is very different. Like that's not something I ever would have asked. Like, to be honest, I'm just grateful for the opportunity and for a challenge. And I was always going for the organization rather than the pipeline of work. But now, Drew, I'm exactly like you. Like, that's what I would be asking, even if it wasn't a mass onboarding. I would be asking for sure, like, what is it that I'm going to be working on, making sure there's longevity in that role. Because if I'm going to, it's a big change for me as well. If I'm going to move from my current role, I need to make sure that it's not a risk, that I'm the only one that's going to be taking the risk. Exactly. Because probation period and things like that. There's got to be investment from both sides. So understanding the business and the pipeline is super important.
Yeah, definitely not a question I'd ask.
You wouldn't ask that question?
Well, like, sorry, I probably would think about it now, but it would be more of an interest because I want to know what is their pipeline of work, from in general. But yeah, I don't know if it would make me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it would be something I would think, because I think no matter where you're moving to, you're taking a risk. And with all the will in the world, those people can give you any amount of information that they want in an interview. So again, I think be cautious. If somebody says to you, there's a huge pipeline of work and this is what you're going to be working on in 6 months, things can change, and you have to be ready, willing, and able to make that risk, I think.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. I want to know, going into that, how the model has changed or how the business has changed to validate that decision. And just hearing the high numbers, I'd be cautious, and I'd want that comfort. Yeah.
And what would be a high number? Like, so if you were in an interview and you said how many new starters?
If they were hiring, say, I don't know, 15, 20 new consultants, like if there's 3, 4, 5, I think that's normal.
Yeah.
But then again, if it's the big four, they hire in buckets of a lot more than 15 or 20. It's probably relative to the role.
Yeah.
I do think it comes from exposure to commercials, though, because like if I even think of when I started in my current role, I know I was hired specifically for one project, but I didn't think beyond that. I was like, oh well, I'll go in and do that. Don't actually know how long it lasts for. Didn't know any of that, and didn't ask the question. Like that was a location move for me for sure. Like my primary driver was because I wanted to move city, and I was like, well, okay, that project will last for a while. And me being client side before, not having any commercial awareness, not knowing that, like the long and short of it is that in consultancy there's always risk. There's always a risk that you can be made redundant if there's not a pipeline of work. So, but I didn't think like that until I got exposure to understanding that and understanding commercials and chargeability and things like that. And obviously it's not the be all and end all, but it is important. But before I was exposed to that, it would never have been a thought for me to understand a business pipeline.
I didn't know that was when you moved. So you moved for that job?
I moved for that one specific customer.
I mean, for the customer. Oh, for the customer. Wow. And was that in itself a bit scary, thinking I'm making this move based on this professional decision? I've never moved for work.
I moved because I wanted to move to the big city. I wanted to move to the big smoke. And like, to be honest, the letter of the alphabet being that the company starts with and being so high up in the alphabet, it was first on the page, and it was the first I applied for. And it was my first that was of that specific role as well, because like I think in previous podcasts we talked about the fact that I was doing that role before I knew that was the role that I was doing. Yeah. And this role was the first that I had applied for that was actually the title. The job description was actually for the role that I do now. So although I'd been doing it for years and years and years before, I never actually fully had that title. And this was just before the South shut down for COVID. The day before I got offered, and then the next day the South shut down, and then all hell broke loose. But I made the move because I had my last deployment with my old company. It went live the day before. It was on a Wednesday. I went on like Indeed.com or whatever on the Thursday. That company is quite high up in the alphabet, so that was first on the list. And I applied and I interviewed the next day.
Wow. So
I probably didn't focus a lot on the job description, on the company, on anything. That was a locational
lifestyle change.
It's a lifestyle change for me.
Yeah.
And it's worked out very well. But the company or the job role probably weren't my main drivers at all.
Right. And Catherine Kate Moore, same question to you. Because you moved to Australia and you were working over there. Did you have the role before? But did you know I'm going to work for this company or this organization? No. Or you went over there and then found work?
No, that's a whole different podcast of how many times I lost jobs and going in sick to jobs, and
we'll edit that piece out.
Yeah. No, definitely not. No, like like that was just complete lifestyle kind of
Right.
change. And no, like, and I think that was kind of the niceness of that as well. And I think you need that at some point in your life where you're like, I have no idea what I'll be doing in a month's time, but that's also okay. And like temp work is horrific, but also like it's so good for your own growth and your own like exposure and just like hilarious stories that you come out with.
You have to be flexible.
Yeah, you absolutely have to be flexible, and you've no idea where you're going to be from one week to the next, and you just get to meet like great people and yeah, just kind of enjoy it. But it's like every week is different, which is terrifying, but brilliant. Like it's such a good thing to do, and it stands to you so much in terms of like kind of having thick skin and being able to just roll with the punches.
Like I think if I went to look for a job now, it would be a completely different approach. Like I don't know how confident I would be to be able to spot the red flags and the green flags now doing it on my own, because I'd say that this would be the first time in my life that I would be moving because the role was the right role. Whereas before it had just been like it got stagnant in another role. And I think
another challenge maybe.
Yeah, like I'll move to another company, do similar sort of a thing. Whereas now it would have to be a real strategic move for me. And it would probably be that I know someone in the area. Because again, Northern Ireland's so small, everybody knows each other. So it would be that. Or I think I would probably have to rely on a recruiter to help me like understand the landscape and understand what exactly I'm looking for. It would be a completely different approach to looking at job spec versus what I've had experience of.
It's funny how your priorities change, or your perspective, your approach. And for me, I'm thinking of like my son, the mortgage, and the risk that I feel for myself quite high. Because when you start an organization, you're back to probation and you're back to not knowing. No matter how many promises somebody gives you or a company gives you, the bottom could fall out of their entire model and you could be gone and your house is on the block. Do you know what I mean? So for me, so much to weigh up. So you guys
get off the green flags.
Green flags.
No, but you're right. But I think if you're kind of just starting out your career, I do think make it work for you. If the job spec is going to offer you a challenge, offer you in some way even a little bit of comfort, flexibility, so you can like maybe travel, work remotely or whatever it is. I think you have to make these things work for you at a certain point, because like that, you're going to be old and grey and be worried about your mortgage.
Yeah, well, I'm old, grey, and I worry about my mortgage, all of those things.
But even I think when the job spec doesn't align, it's not necessarily a bad thing either. Like in my role before I came here, there was no travel mentioned at all. And then my role changed as soon as I got my bum in the seat on day one. And I ended up traveling the world for free for 3 years. Like I have seen everywhere, China, India, the Americas. I've seen everywhere because of that job. But that was nowhere to be mentioned in the job description. So that was like a complete flip, but it worked in my favor. But it only worked in my favor because at the point I was in my life. Like if you were to do that now, your wife would kill you. Like it just wouldn't.
She might be the one, to be fair.
But I was 3 weeks away, 3 weeks home for 3 years. And if I had any other commitments, like if I had dependents or anything like that, I just couldn't have done it. Yeah. So that's a circumstantial life thing that it suited me at that time. And it wasn't aligned to the job that I applied for at all. But I was more than happy and willing to do a different role versus the one that I actually applied for.
And with the green flags, if you think of the exact opposite of our first one, of having a vague job spec, I don't know how you feel about this, but to me, I love when a job spec goes into loads of detail. Like I'll sit there, and if it's a company or a job that I'm invested in, or if it's something that I would be passionate about, for example, I'd love for them to talk to me about their approach to people and their culture, but be real about it. And I love that. And I think we try to represent that in the way we position jobs in the market. We talk about actual life and how we treat each other and how our team acts and how we behave, because we're quite people focused. So I love that in a job spec, rather than these are your responsibilities, this is your minimum education requirements. It's so grey and black and white and soulless. So I love when there's tons of detail and like humanity in a job spec. Is that weird?
Yeah, you're the opposite to like, that meme of like, we are not your family. She was like, no, I absolutely am your family.
Oh my baby.
I do appreciate it. I definitely don't want to just be, this is the job. Because I think, and it's the same when I'm interviewing someone, I would always ask the question, well, what can I do for you? And not to sound like JFK too much.
I was going to say.
But like, I think it's so important because so much of an interview or a job spec is, this is everything we want from you. And I think it has to be a give and take for you to find the right person. Because if somebody doesn't align to your culture, you're never going to get the best out of them anyway. So there's no point in having the skills and all that if you don't have the right culture and the right face for the company. But so I do love that piece. But on detailed job specs, I don't know, I have a mixed feeling on this, because I also do love when somebody's like, look, you're coming into this and make it your own. And, I can't, this is your average day, but what your day is, I'm not going to define what your day looks like. And I think, I would definitely, I like detail, but I definitely would love if somebody kind of said, well, make that whatever you want to make it, because I want to have some autonomy over my role as well.
Something that I think we've done, God, really like tooting our own horn in this podcast, excuse me, but something that we do that I haven't seen in other organizations that I've worked in that I really love is where if we feel there's somebody who has a question or an interest, or maybe, I don't know, they might be on the fence, maybe we'll put them in touch with someone from our team we think they'll resonate well with. I know you both been on calls with people that we've been trying to get over the line and we think that you guys are a good match, or you've worked in an area that they're asking questions about. I love that we have those informal calls outside of the interview process just to put people at ease. And I love that. I love that approach, because they're the people who are going to be doing the work, and you don't want to sell them a dream and then they put their bum in the seat day one and it's completely different to what they signed up for.
Yeah.
And I think they are needed more. The more virtual interviews that we do, I think that is needed, because there's a lot of people that don't put their camera on, even in interviewers. There's times that they don't put their camera on as well. And I would just find that so hard to really trust what it is that I'm walking into as an interviewee. So being able to actually
really ugly team, bunch of uggos.
Oh, well, we can't have that, can we? But being able to speak to somebody on the ground, I think, makes all the difference. But I heard the culture thing being referred to as a vibe check these days. I don't know if
vibe check.
The vibe check, the score on the vibe check. So that's what the kids are calling it these days. 1 to 5. How did the score on the vibe check?
I'm far too into my 30s for this kind of carry on.
Feel me now. I have to get rid of my skinny jeans, my ankle socks, and now the culture question.
Also, apparently you're not allowed to tuck in your shirt anymore. What is this? I need to be
shirt, like your work shirt.
Apparently this is a thing. Like, well, obviously your work shirt, like, but yeah.
Well, that's to be fair, that's been the case since like people were line dancing in the
like t-shirts and stuff. Untucked.
Yeah, it's all about the like oversized overhang over everything. Yeah.
I understand for ladies, but does that mean guys too? I don't know.
Well, the young ones in the office today were saying that I'm wearing an oven mitt to work, so my gilet is padded, but they say I look like an oven mitt. I don't know.
It's a very nice oven mitt.
I like my oven mitt, and it's reversible. You can have it to be a different print as well.
Ah,
I know. But
it's armored, Catherine, isn't it?
You're wearing an oversized t-shirt, so you're half hip to the groove.
Yeah, and I'm wearing wide fit jeans, so I'm not wearing skinny jeans. So I think I'm correct.
Wow.
I wore runners to the office today, so I think I'm pretty cool.
I maybe you could count in one hand the amount of times I've seen you in runners. Hardly ever.
Yeah, I can't get on board with this. I'm sorry.
No.
I just don't. I'm not a runner gal.
Where do you stand on interview attire now? Because we're hybrid and it's definitely more casual behind a screen. But if someone rocked up to an interview like dressed like I am now, would you be automatic no?
No.
not an automatic no, but I think you should definitely still make an effort, even though IT is quite a relaxed industry when it comes to dress code. Don't they say that like the smartest person in the room is the guy wearing a hoodie? Like that's the thing. But I still think that there's a level of respect required as an interviewee and an interviewer. I think both should make an effort on the day. Like we had a few in here today, and they were suited and booted, which was nice to see. And it was like younger generation, but they're still putting the effort in, which was really nice to see, because it could have gone one of two ways. You know, they could have rocked up in a hoodie and jeans, and I suppose that still would have been fine, because sometimes that is the dress code in here. But no, they were suited and booted, and it was
interviewer,
interviewee.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great.
I think if you're in person, like go office attire.
Yeah, because you don't know what you're walking into.
Exactly. It's no idea who's going to be around.
Yeah, safer to be overdressed than underdressed.
Yeah.
I did interview somebody in a 3-piece suit one day, like waistcoat and everything, in the office. They wore a top hat and they had a cane.
No.
Yep.
Cane. That's a commitment, really.
Nice.
Yeah.
You sure he knew he was coming to your office for that?
I know. Yeah. Like once you get here, you're like, whoa, this is not the vibe.
Wow. God, that's wild.
Yeah, that was nice.
I met a customer while I got an interview, but I met a customer with my boss a few weeks ago, and I was well dressed, I like to think, but I wore a necktie, and I never used to wear a necktie. I haven't worn them since my previous job a long time ago, but I was feeling myself that day, and I had my suit, and I put on my necktie, and I ironed my favorite shirt, and I got there and met him in the car park, and he said, "Who died?" Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. I haven't worn it since.
Oh.
I might break it again soon. But more green flags. I have a couple more to get through. So, taking you off topic. Another one, I think, if you're looking at a company, because LinkedIn's so great now, excuse me, to be able to look at in the organization, if people's profiles are public, it's a difficult sentence to say, not a piece, being able to see length of service, I think, is a good one too. So if you look at an organization, look at the people, you can search for people in the organization who do the same role that you're looking at, and to see how long they've spent in a company. And I know attrition is challenging in every organization, and in IT, it got up to like 55%, I think. About 18 months ago, it was quite high. And I think average length or average tenure in an IT organization is about 2 years. So I think getting your hands on those people on LinkedIn and seeing their average tenure, or seeing their tenure in an organization, really give you an indication as to if people stay. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Go ahead, Catherine.
No, sorry, it's not something I would have thought of. Again, it would be now, and I definitely ask. But stalking people on LinkedIn is always nice too.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at if they've been there for a while, have they had different roles? Because if somebody is sitting in the same role for 12 years, that to me says that their priorities are different than mine. They're happy to chug along in exactly the same role, and that completely suits them, and that could be a lifestyle thing. But for me, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if people are staying 2, 3, 4 years, because that it is recommended to, you can't be sitting in the same role for 10 years. That's just not it's not productive for anybody. Your employer definitely isn't getting the best from you if you've been.
Maybe that's a blocker from you and your progression. If people are plateauing at a certain band.
Exactly. So I'd be interested to see. It's great if they've been able to stay there for a length of time. Like me in my current role, I've had in my current position in my current organization, I've had various roles, and I don't feel the point where I'm anywhere near stagnation. Which and I've been here for 4 years, whereas where I've been before, I've got to the 3-year mark and I'm banging my head against the wall thinking I cannot do any more time here. So being there for a length of time, but also having different roles within that time would be important. And then what do you think about Glassdoor? Do you ever look at Glassdoor reviews?
Yeah, some of them
do.
People are wild on that thing.
Yeah, it's lawless.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I also think that you're never going to get a full picture. Somebody's left and maybe they want to burn bridges, and that's absolutely fine. But yeah, plus, I don't know.
Or with any, it's like if you're reviewing a restaurant, you're so more likely to go and review a negative experience than a positive. how many people have had a positive experience with a manager, a person, an organization, and just happily moved on to a new opportunity. But if yours is negative, you can be damn sure you're gonna pay that forward. Which is a good thing.
I don't know. I don't think it's nice. Like I would never leave a negative review on Glassdoor.
Like, really? Well,
yeah, I don't think so.
Like, but if your experience was that brutal to you, I don't know. Maybe it's cathartic.
Maybe, yeah. Like I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, reviewing our own negative reviews that people left for us on Glassdoor.
yeah, or just how to leave your tone of voice at the door so you don't get found out on Glassdoor. I think people forget that it's sometimes obvious.
Yeah, it's a small island and it's a small industry.
Yeah. I would just be nervous, especially people maybe who are, again, a little bit more junior, not long into their careers, and I'm not really sure how things work and how many people you circle back to within a career, you just want to be really careful with those. But I definitely wouldn't pay attention to them. I think I would look at them, but I don't know how much heed I'd give them, just because you never know. Like, there's always 3 sides to every story. So I just feel like, and as you said, you're always going to get negative stories rather than this person is brilliant to work for.
Yeah. I definitely rather speak to a real human who's worked there. And like before, when we've been hiring in the past, we've reached out to people who've worked in that organization to see what their practice was like, what their methods were like, and if they knew that person, can they tell us about that person as well, using our network. And again, that's based on the network that we've managed and kept up, because there's a right and a wrong way to leave an organization. So even in that respect, as hiring managers, we're relying on those relationships we built with people who left the company.
Yeah.
And there's always I've definitely seen it where we have been hiring, is that people have reached out to members of our team that work in that organization on like LinkedIn, and they've said, look, I've applied and they look for somebody that they can personify with, like maybe it's age demographic or previous experience or something. They'll look for somebody that they think that there could be a level of empathy with there, and they say, look, I've applied for a role here, this is the role, what do you reckon? And even though they're a complete stranger to them, they still expect, I suppose, a level of honesty and things like that as well, which I find surprising that they would reach out to a complete stranger and take their word for it. But I suppose it is better than looking on Glassdoor, speaking to a real person. So,
and is that also looking for an avenue for them to refer them, or is it just more information gathering?
It's kind of both. So it's either that they know that there's a job opportunity there and they want to know if it's worth applying for, or if they've already gone through the interview process, or if they went through the application process, maybe there's an offer out and they want to do a vibe check from somebody who actually works there. I've seen it used for that as well. So it's either for, should I apply for this job at all, or should I take the offer that they've offered me?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I like that though.
And especially being in the office, like you hear all these things. Like, it's, if you're working from home, that you probably wouldn't find out, but it just so happens that they pop up on LinkedIn when you're sat beside somebody, and it's like, oh, that's who I've just interviewed a couple of days ago.
My mind is consistently blown by the Weans. Like the 20-year-olds coming in now are just so much more switched on than I ever was. It's unbelievable.
Completely.
But I think companies are really missing a trick with understanding that, because like that, I think there's so much. It used to be, what can you do for us? What can you bring to the table? Why are you different? Why are you offering something new? And now companies have to realize of how much they have to offer other people as well to get the most out of them. And I think like that, asking questions about like, well, look, what do you hope to get out of us, gives you an in to kind of say, ooh, we don't do that, or we do that, and actually we do a little bit more. But I think I think companies need to kind of get a bit more up to speed with how switched on everyone is.
Yeah, and like the education that kids are getting now is so much better and so much more aligned to like our industry and things like that. Like when there was some interviews going on today, and the way in which some of the people answered the questions. I was asking the interviewers, when you were that age, would you have answered that in that way? And they've been like, absolutely not. Would not have had a clue as to how to answer that at all. Like when it was quite a niche tech stack, and the answers they were getting today, they were like, I couldn't have answered that in that way when I was that age. So just the standard that's coming through now, like we as hiring managers really, really need to make sure we nurture that from a young age. It's just very different versus when we were coming out of school.
Great.
And probably another green flag, like if a company is asking you those questions and it's not just all about what you can give and it's actually about what you can take from the company, that's your cue to kind of get maybe a little bit more aligned to them.
Yeah.
Good insight. I've got one more for you. Okay. Actually, I have three, but the other two I think we've covered. I'll give you the ones that we've touched on already. One was valuing people as well as the profit. And I think obviously that's important. And talking about my job spec that's focused on humanity, I think that can come true as well. And that would be something that I would look for in another role in an organization, is that they're people focused. And the other one that we touched on as well is that details on the day-to-day not being a secret. And I think if somebody can give you the specifics, whether that's onboarding, whether that's what the expectations are, mentoring, what your goals will be in 6 months' time, as long as they can give you that specificity. Damn, I reached too close to the sun. As long as they can be clear on the detail, then that would give me comfort too. But the last one I'm going to ask you guys about is, and I don't know how you're going to feel about this. I have an opinion, but I'm interested to see what yours are. If you're looking at an organization, would it matter to you if they did or did not have a healthy social side? What does that say to you?
Yeah, no, it would matter to me. I think I think no matter what, it's important. I think it's important to see a company's social activity on LinkedIn. I think it's important to see it on their website. And I think it's important that it's not just, like to Christina's point earlier, you can see it from actual individual level, not just the company spouting out kind of, this is what we did. So yeah, I think it's important. And I think it's important. I definitely like when I'm the interviewer, it gives me a good vibe check. When somebody asks me about the culture and somebody asks me about it, because then it makes me feel like they're also not just here for a paycheck and whatever. They're actually here to get involved and to be part of something. And it definitely would matter to me. And I on both sides of the table.
I'd be the same. I don't think everybody in an organization needs to be best friends, but it makes it so much easier if you like the people that work there, or like being around those people, or are able to be around those people. And if you take it to the next step and give up your precious personal time to be around those people, that says a lot about an organization, I think. Yeah. Christina?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be every week. Like it's just about kind of the fact that it's there and there's openness there, and the company values something that's not just about profit and productivity. It's about kind of making sure that people have good morale and feel motivated through other channels. And I think that's hugely important.
And I think for me as a hiring manager recently, that has been the thing that has been able to separate us from other organizations. So if there's been really good candidates that I know have had a couple of different offers out there, but like in Belfast, we're really, really good at that side of it. We're really good at the social side of it. And I would say that we're all friends outside of work as well, which makes coming into the office more enticing because you get to see your friends every day, not just doing your job. But that has been the thing that's pushed us over the line with some of our really good candidates recently, is that we're able to say that we go to the cinema together, we go ice skating, we go bowling. The company supports us in that financially as well. Like there's things that our company helps us do, so that we have a social element as well, as not just work. But it definitely makes a difference being able to come in. You spend more time with these people than you do with your family. So you've got to make sure that you put the effort into the relationship and the social side of things too.
Well
and
said.
then they get to slag you about wearing an oven mitt.
I know.
All your hard work.
They're just jealous. my pockets.
It's a really nice little myth, though.
Really nice little myth.
Yeah. Or it looks like, no, I don't know how you're going to take this, but you know, when horses have clothes and they put like the jacket on the horse.
Yeah.
It looks like one of the horse jackets.
Yeah.
But a fancy one.
Yeah. Not a bog standard one.
No. And on that note, I'd like to thank you guys. But before we wrap up, I do want to thank you for being here once again on this episode of the BA Project. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Catherine. That's us. We will see you again next time. And in the meantime, please comment below. Tell us what your biggest red flags are, what your green flags are, what you're looking out for in that new role. Do you agree with us? Do you not? Do you have insight from your own experience? Tell us in the comments. If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to write for the BA Project, if you want to learn more about what we do or just get a steer on how to get started as a BA, you can find us at thebaproject.ie or thebaproject.co.uk or simply at the BA Project across all social media. Thanks for watching and take care of yourself.